Please welcome Sarah Davies. Seems to be a theme.
Take over, change, whatever. So I'm a copyright geek, so I have to mention to you that this presentation is in the public domain. It may be freely reproduced, modified, built upon, transmitted, used, or otherwise exploited by anyone for any purpose, commercial or non-commercial, including by ways that have not yet been invented or conceived. So last week, I donated $8.34 to some guy running for state representative in Kansas. And I've never been to Kansas. I don't much care what happens in Kansas. But this guy, Sean Tevis, wrote a webcomic. That comic got carried on a blog that I read. And when I read that comic, I could tell that Sean Tevis was a geek. It was clear to me that we shared a common sacred knowledge as citizens of cyberspace. I knew that he was part of my tribe. And if he shares the values of my tribe, then by God, that man is qualified to run Kansas. Now, Sean Tevis raised nearly $100,000 from over 5,000 people. And this made me think that we as geeks need to own our buying power. We need to own our technological and political power, and we need to take over the world. We must employ Tevesian economics throughout the Bible belts and the square states and infiltrate decision-making bodies nationwide with our YouTube-making gold farming kin. The tech-savvy coasts must woo the voters in the middle states. Now, it's common geek knowledge that lotteries are merely a tax on those who can't do math. So the first thing we do once we obtain a geek majority is to repeal all gambling laws. With our huge budget surplus, our giant piles of cash, and our new geekocracy, our glorious geektatorship, we will wage an epic world battle, a global game of Risk, pitting Linux programmers against Luddites. Now, human casualties are a very serious matter. So the first wave is going to be Lego robots. Each robot will have a GPS and camera attached, as well as processor motor nodes throughout its body, so that even if it's dismantled, the parts can be individually controlled, Voltron style. So even if they are dismantled, they'll be able to jump from the top of tall buildings and land upon unsuspecting and now unconscious passersby. We're confident that this will cause anyone who can't reprogram the robots to flee from the city in terror. So the next thing we need to do is clear a large flat area. And to do this, we're going to print out thousands of copies of the DMCA and use them as kindling to set the city on fire. This has the added benefit of obscuring our location in smoke. Infrared goggles will be provided. We're then going to bring in Jimmy Wales to build wiki barracks that can be quickly put up and taken down and edited. However, any buildings that are not considered notable will have to be dismantled. Communications between bases must be dual key encrypted. Public keys will be broadcast onto the copious clouds of smoke with big green lasers. The punishment for disclosing a private key is 24-hour suspension from Twitter and Gmail. Not something to be attempted by the light of heart. We're going to get Adrian from the RepRap project to build self-replicating Wi-Fi routers that will spread themselves across the earth, providing infinite high-bandwidth internet. The password is, let's see, we'll need to secure the network. So let's start over. Dan Kaminsky is going to be our double agent. He is going to pretend to secure enemy networks while, in fact, causing all of their DNS information to point to a fail whale. Then it's time for the attack. Ariana Huffington is going to come in from the north on a Cat5 cable into the enemy camp and blog to death as many combatants as possible. We'll need some diversion so she isn't seen. To the west will be a flash mob of cosplayers. To the south will be Randall Monroe publicly performing acts from his mistranslated Kama Sutra. And to the east will be Sarah Lacey in hot pants. Now, if our mission should fail because someone is too busy flirting with Mark Zuckerberg, Ted Stevens will be on hand to lead us through the underground tubes. The tubes will come out at Ron Paul's blimp. The blimp should have enough fuel, but in the case of an emergency, we can fill it with Michael Arrington's ego and get away unharmed. In the case of traumatic death, chaplains from the Church of Richard Stallman will be available. For the bereaved, compensation will consist of a link back from Slashdot and an invite to Foo Camp. You may not voluntarily sacrifice family members. You may, however, sacrifice yourself for the page rank of others. So once we get everyone captured, all of our enemies, we're going to put them in a humane matrix-like environment where they will believe that they have a larger SUV than all of their neighbors. So that takes care of everyone else in the world, and the geeks get to inherit the earth. Thank you very much. I'm Sarah Davies.